Well, thank you very much for having me today, Wendy. I'm really pleased to be here. So as I mentioned at the overview of my company slide, I'm really interested in the way project managers leverage social intelligence to get their teams engaged and get their teams producing. And over the years, I have taken over and managed multiple projects that were what people had referred to as in trouble and have had to get them back on track. And what I found over those years was that it was partly process that helped, but predominantly what it was about getting people engaged and making them understand what the purpose of the project was, helping them see what their part in that was, and really understanding how to align their motivation with the goals of the project and the organization. And as I did that more and more, I became more and more fascinated by it, and I've studied lots of different aspects of how to motivate and engage teams. I trained as a mediator, and most recently, over the last few years, I've really been focusing on positive psychology and in particular character strengths. And so what I want to talk about today is how you can incorporate some of these practices that I've been using into your day-to-day, both to benefit you and to benefit the people you work with. And we're going to talk about social intelligence specifically, why it matters. Some people ask me the difference between social intelligence and emotional intelligence, and I actually think emotional intelligence is kind of an all-encompassing term that relates to managing your own emotions and your own reaction to things and how you process experiences. And then social intelligence is kind of the outward-looking part of understanding how what you do affects other people, understanding how they're affecting you. So emotional intelligence I see as a combination really of self-awareness, but also other people awareness, which is the social intelligence piece. And in particular, I like to focus on character strengths, and we're going to do an exercise later in spotting character strengths. If you don't know what those are, don't worry about it. If you've seen any of my other presentations, you may have a little bit of a clue ahead of time. And I do encourage you to ask questions, because sometimes the questions come up around a topic I'm talking about at that moment. Don't feel like you need to save that to the end. Jump in and put your questions in the chat, and I will try and respond to them as we go along. So before we start the discussion on social intelligence, I want to discuss priming. And one of the things that I do in every session that I do, whether it's in a webinar or live, is to discuss this power pose research from Amy Cuddy. And the reason I do this is I am a nervous presenter. I love to present, I love to share what I've learned with people, and at the same time, I'm absolutely terrified of doing it. So there's my vulnerable moment. And what I discovered as part of my studies in positive psychology is this research by Amy Cuddy. And I don't know how many people may have come across this before, but she did some research into the effects of people taking 2 minutes before they do something challenging, closing their eyes and adopting a position of power. And it's these positions here are the ones that she researched. A position of power is one where you open your chest, lift your chin, really take up as much space as possible. And what she found was that people who took 2 minutes, closed their eyes, thought about overcoming obstacles, concentrated on what was coming and how they were going to surmount that challenge, they actually performed better than people who didn't do any exercise beforehand. There's similar research by Matsumoto and Tracy that have shown that congenitally blind athletes do the the mountain pose that you may know from yoga, where you lift your hands over your head and really reach up, again, puffing out the chest and raising the chin. And these athletes who've never seen anyone do that naturally do that powerful pose when they are successful at something, which suggests that this taking up space and creating these big powerful poses is something natural to us. So I'm showing this to you today. If we were live, I'd have everybody, in person, I would have everybody stand up and do it. It's really, really effective. Some people may be aware that some of the Cuddy research was challenged. She did some research on hormone levels, and that was later challenged. But the actual psychological effect, it's been reproduced over and over. And priming yourself when you're going to go into something difficult is really, really important. Some of you may have seen this on an episode of Grey's Anatomy, for example, where they're going in to do brain surgery. So someone has asked about StrengthsFinder. I am actually a certified StrengthsFinder coach. That is the Gallup product. And I also work with something called the VIA Character Strength Survey. The difference between the two is that StrengthsFinder, first of all, is very much focused on work only, whereas the VIA Character Strength Survey is work and the rest of your life experience. The other thing is that StrengthsFinder is proprietary, and you can only get paid reports. You pay to take the assessment and get your reports back. VIA offers a free survey, which I'll be talking about later, and I'll be providing a link at the very end. And theirs is all evidence-based, researched by and validated by other researchers, so it's been peer-reviewed. So I love to work with VIA Character Strengths because it's very accessible. Anyone on this presentation today or anyone watching the recording can use the link I provide at the end and go and take their survey of their 24 strengths and find out their ranking for free. Whereas for StrengthsFinder, you would have to pay. One of my favorite things to do with groups is to actually use both, because the VIA Character Strength Survey is really a measure of who we are, and the StrengthsFinder survey is really a measure of how we operate. So I hope that helps. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask. So I always say social intelligence, although I said it's the outward facing part of emotional intelligence, it does begin with us and understanding ourselves and observing our own behaviors and thoughts and feelings. So I'm going to invite you at this moment to take a look at this screen and just pause for a moment and think about, what are you feeling right now? And you don't have to share. If you want to, that's fine. But this is just a moment for you to be mindful of what emotions are you experiencing at the moment. And I'll just pause for a few seconds so you can look at this and think about it. And I find that it is really helpful to pause, particularly before difficult meetings or an awkward conversation with someone, and just really evaluate, what are you feeling in that moment, so that you're aware of your emotions and how you may be affected by them as you go into whatever situation you're entering. So now we're going to move on to a few statistics about workplaces. I'm not going to dwell on this too much. Some of these may be familiar to you, some maybe not. Gallup has done research that has shown that 2/3 of the workforce worldwide is disengaged. And a proportion of those are actually actively disengaged. They're the people who are really trying to get in the way, not trying to get in the way of what other people are doing, but their mood and the way they talk and the way they naysay things really drags other people down, and they're actually pulling energy out of other people. But for the rest of us, most of us are just kind of going to work, watching the clock, getting the job done, and going home relieved that the workday is over. And that's really a sad way to be when we're spending 8 to 10 hours a day in a job. Gallup has also shown that 70% of people leaving a job actually attribute their departure in some way or other to their manager. And if you think about that, although we tend to think of line managers in that model, really it's any manager, it's anyone who is managing the time that the person is spending at work, and that includes us as project managers. VIA, the VIA Institute on Character that I mentioned before with the Character Strength Survey, has found that 2/3 of people are actually unaware of the strengths that they bring to the table. Often they don't even realize that the qualities.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.